Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Inshallah, we'll continue with Unit 2. To me, it appears that Unit 2 is pretty sizable and it's at the heart of this course and has a lot of important topics. So we have to be diligent and try to do a good job here, inshallah. So this part of this unit is about measuring and enlarging objects in a drawing. Let's say if you wanted to draw this tree and you wanted to make it accurate. Someone would say, well, why does it have to be like accurate, right? You know, just kind of like if it looks kind of vaguely similar to it, it's sufficient, right? No. Here we want to make it accurate, okay? We want to learn the techniques that are used to make it look resemble the real life tree, make it be realistic, and we want to make it accurate because we're going to be tested on it and graded on it. Okay, that's what we're going to do. But we're going to learn the techniques how to do that. Okay. Also, let's say you are making a picture from you're trying to reproduce something from a picture, and let's say that the tree in the picture is like this big, and your paper is like this big. Okay, so you're trying to make this tree. You have a picture of a tree over here, and you want to draw it over here. Now, if you copy it just like that, your tree will be like this over here in the paper, and it'll look kind of silly, right? So let's say if you want to enlarge the tree, so if you enlarge the tree, it'll be like this, right? So how do you take an image that's small and make it bigger without making it look funny in the process, right? So when you enlarge, you have to make sure that you do it properly, and the proportions have to be correct? So when you're enlarging things, you have to make sure that the proportions or the ratio are correct. For example, what ratios? Ratio of the length of the tree to the width of the tree, correct? So, and to give it accurate representation to what the tree is in the real life. For example, if somebody's not diligent about the proportions correctly, you can see this tree looks funny. It looks a little dwarfed compared to the tall one. This is a tall, handsome tree, and this one looks kind of not as nearly as tall, and this one is too skinny compared to the original one. Where this drawing of this reproduction of this tree looks accurate and authentic compared to the real life tree. So how do we go from here to here, and how do we not fall into pitfalls that will give us funny looking trees like that? So how do we go from here to here? And that's what we're going to learn. Okay. The second aspect of it is how do we enlarge things? How do we enlarge? How do you take small things and make them bigger? Let's say in the picture, the tree's height is in the picture that you have 1 inch by half an inch. So if you want to draw it, you have to make it 2 inches by 1 inch. As long as you keep the proportions, okay, the same, right? If you keep the proportions the same, in other words, if you double the height, you have to double the width. That's what similar from geometry, right? So if you double the height, you have to double the width. So as long as you keep the proportions the same, the tree will be accurately enlarged, right? Most of the time in drawings you would have to enlarge things. You don't usually shrink things because in real life things look pretty small actually. So in most of the time an artist will be enlarging things and not shrinking things. So as long as one is attuned to the relative ratios of things, then they will be able to accurately enlarge objects. Now, you have to be careful just when you're enlarging things and reproducing them. You're not just working with one object, okay? So here's our 2 rock formations. When you're drawing and trying to do it accurately, you have to make sure that this rock formation is in relative to this one the proper height. If this one is this height, this rock formation has to be approximately twice as much as this. Now, if somebody was not aware of this, they may have made this rock formation smaller, and it would not be an accurate representation of the original. So not only you have to be aware of the relative proportions of the height versus the width of one object, okay, you also have to be aware of this object relative to this object. So the relative relationships between objects in the same scene. okay, and the proportions and their height, okay. So you have to be aware of proportions in between objects. For example, okay, just to drive home the point, this is a very beautiful picture I just came across with. Now, if somebody, for example, gets this tree wrong over here, makes it too short compared to this one, it would not be an accurate representation. You have to make sure that this house is proportional to this house, and this house compared to this house, right? And this rock compared to this rock. So all of these things have to be taken into account to make this as realistic as possible, which is our goal. And it's when you get a hang of the process, it's actually quite fun, I think. So there are 4 ways of reproducing things authentically, realistically, accurately. The 4 ways that are commonly used. One is they're not exclusive. In other words, these are not like 4 different methods or something like that. You can pick and choose, and you can use all 4 of them in one drawing. I mean, it's kind of like they're not mutually exclusive. They work very well, just like the method works very well together. So thumb and pencil method. These are the 4 ones. The thumb and pencil method, and the box method, and the basic shapes method, and the grid method. So we're going to go through these individually. So these are all methods for doing what? These are methods of accurately reproducing stuff, okay, and getting all the proportions correctly, and enlarging. So enlarging objects and accurately reproducing them. So first method then is the thumb and pencil method. It's very commonly used because most people have a thumb, and if they don't have or if they don't have a thumb, they can use their other fingers. If they carry a pencil if they want to draw. So this is readily available, really useful way of doing it. All right. So the thumb and pencil method, what you do is you measure objects with the pencil. So the pencil basically becomes a ruler, okay, and the thumb or finger acts as a measuring device. So here you measure the height of the tree like this. Okay. The key thing with the thumb and the pencil method is you measure objects like this. Okay. You close you close one of the eyes. Okay, because you close one of the eyes. Okay, and then you put the finger at arm's length. Okay, like this. And you have to make sure every time you measure it, your arm, this length is the same thing. Otherwise, you'll get the measurements wrong. So you have to make sure you hold the arms straight out and in the same way, from the same point of reference, right? That makes sense, correct? Because if the arm is over here, all the measurements are going to be messed up the next time. So you have to make sure you hold the pencil at arm's length like this, and every time you make a measurement, you hold your pencil from the same distance from the eye as you did the first time around. Okay. So in doing that, for example, this person is showing us an example here. So they put the pencil at arm's length, and they're measuring the height of this milk box. Okay. So they put the tip of the pencil over here, and they bring the thumb down to where it is, like this. Okay, and if you want to measure the width of this, you just turn the pencil this way, and then you measure the width, and you drive the thumb up over here, and then you know, okay, that's the width. Okay, so this is how you measure. Now again, as I said, you have to be careful that you hold the hand at the same distance both times. And you can also measure relative sizes. For example, how big is the milk carton over here compared to the size of the orange here, or the size of the banana. So basically, with the thumb and pencil method, you can measure anything, right? You can pretty much measure anything. Okay, for objects that are bigger than this, relative to this, you can go, okay, that object is about 1.5 times or 2 times as big as the milk carton, etc. Okay. So that's how you use the thumb method. Now, the book goes to this example, which is very good. So you look at this, and if you're working from a picture, it works the same way. If you're working from a picture, you put the thumb, and a finger like this on top of the picture. So if whatever you're measuring, the top of the pencil goes here, and whatever the bottom of it goes over here. Okay, so let's say you're trying to reproduce this tree on this paper over here, and then what you do is you measure that, and then you bring it without obviously moving your thumb, and then you mark the top and you mark the bottom over here. Okay, and then with another pencil, preferably another pencil, or even if you don't have another pencil, as long as you mark like here and you make a mark over here, all right, then you make a gentle line. Now here you have to use a very light colored pencil, a hard pencil, like 4H or something like that, because these lines are not lines that are part of the drawing. So because either you have to erase them or they have to disappear or camouflage in the artistic work. So you have to use a very hard pencil so those lines are not readily apparent. So when you do that, so you have made that line, okay, and then you go there and you measure the width. Okay, now you're going to measure the width of this tree. Now this tree obviously is not like a rectangular shape, right? So what part of the width are you going to measure? Well, you're going to measure the greatest width if you can do this, okay. The fattest part, the waist of the tree, is like about that big, right? It looks like. So you measure the biggest part of the tree, the greatest width. You don't measure it over here, right? So you measure it over. It looks like you're going to measure it over here, the biggest part of the tree, and then again without, and then you put obviously you measure the width. You bring the thumb over here, right? And then you bring it over here. You mark the tip of it, okay? Now you know how tall the tree is, and now you know how wide it is at its widest point. So once you've done that, you have this, okay? You have this. Now, and then what you do is, so now you have this, right? And then you make some basic landmark lines like this, okay? Now, you basically, now why do you choose to do this for the tree? Because that's the major focus, the focal point of this drawing. Now you can do the same thing with everything in the drawing, but you don't have to. You don't have to the thumb and nail for every single tree that you see over here. You use it for major objects, and this is an outline. So you can do this for the major objects, elements of the drawing. You don't have to do for everything else. Okay, now you have this, right? So now what do we do with this? So you have the basic outline, the height and the width of the tree, and you made some basic outline of the landscape, right? Okay, now what? So now you're here. So what can you do with what you have? Okay, one thing you can do is, well, you can start drawing the tree using basic shapes. We're going to learn this. So you can kind of go like this. Now you know how tall it's going to be. It's like that. Or what you can do is, out of this that you made the height and the width, you can make a little box for the tree, okay? Let's say you want to make that tree like perfectly accurate, okay? So you make a box, right? And then you can add further detail using what's called the box method, which we'll talk about in just a second. Or once you've done this, you can make this rectangular thing and you make a grid out of it, like the Cartesian plane or something like that. And then you use what's called the grid method, okay? So these are different methods of adding details. So you can start drawing using basic shapes, the box method, and the grid method. Okay, there are 4 ways of drawing. Okay, the first one was thumb and pencil. This was the first one. This is what we're talking about, and this is number 2, and this is number 3, and this is number 4. So either you can continue with the thumb and pencil method, or you can go and use the other methods to continue with the drawing. Okay, but at least you know where the tree is in the drawing and relative sizes of the tree. Okay, or you can continue with the same thing. Let's say you wanted to add more details before you start drawing. Okay, so you're still using measurements. Okay, if you look at the tree, you see that, okay, this branch starts here. The leaves don't start until there, and the leaves don't start until over here. Okay, I want to measure how tall it is before the leaves start. Okay, so I don't start drawing the leaves over here or something, which is not accurate. Okay, so what you can do is, okay, well, I can put my thumb up there and then measure the pencil height like this. Okay, and then you go over here, you mark that, and then you can go measure that with the pencil and go like that, and then you mark that. See, now you have that. Okay, then you can, oh, I can do this now. Okay, looks like there's a branch over here going up there, straight up over here, and then there's a branch that goes over here, and then the leaves start over here. There's a branch of leaves over here, and then leaves start over here like this, right? And then like this, and then there's like that, and so you can start drawing like this, okay? But say you wanted even more details, okay? Let's say you wanted more details. Well, then you can make the slopes. These are called slopes or slanted lines. How do you get this? Now you can see this tree has a kind of a sloping over here, right? You want to make sure you get that accurately. Well, then you say, okay, this is the kind of slope. I'm going to pick this point over here and this point over here. I'm going to draw this line over here. So then what you do is you put your thumb sideways like this, and you measure this distance, right? And then you mark that distance, and then you measure this distance on the pencil, with the pencil, and then you mark this distance. So you can measure these distances. Now you can also measure this distances, and that's okay too. See? So now you do that, or you can do that, and then you have to measure how far up it is. So you measure this distance. So you measure it like that. See? Okay. So all right. And then when you do that, you mark this distance and you measure the height over here. It goes up to over here. You measure that distance over here. And now you have this. So now you have the slopes. Now you make sure that the tree ends over there. And then you can begin to draw. Whenever you feel comfortable, say you have enough to go on with, you can draw. And then here they're using what's called the basic shapes method. See, they're kind of going like, okay, the tree approximately, kind of looks like this, and then has, it doesn't go beyond there, and then, it's like this, and then they're going, and then there's a bunch of leaves over here, right, and then you go over here, and they're kind of like this, right, and then there's a bunch of leaves over here, but it doesn't stop, it goes over there, and go beyond, like that, okay? So this is the thumb and nail. Now you can also use this thumb and pencil method to enlarge things, okay? Let's say you measure the height of the tree from here to here. That's the height of the tree, okay, in the picture. But you wanted to make it twice as big. So what you do is on the paper, you mark the height, and then you put the thumb again over here, you mark the height again. That's what they did over here. So this is one pencil length, and then two pencil length over there. And then they took the width, that was this, and they made two. So if you double the height, you double the width. So now here, this tree is going to be twice as big as the original tree. So you can use the thumb and pencil method to enlarge as well. Either reproduces this the same, or you can enlarge it, right? In the first time we didn't enlarge it. You just measured it and accurate. Measured like this, accurate, and you made a bot, and then you start drawing. Here you're going to enlarge it and then do all the work again. Okay, so you can enlarge. All right. So now this is slightly different, okay? Now what's going on here is, okay, you can use the thumb and pencil to get relative proportions, okay? The relative proportions. In other words, instead of drawing all these funky little boxes, type of things, okay? What you can do is, okay, you can say, okay, this is the width, okay? And then, so that's the width of the tree. And then you can say, you measure the height, and you say the height is about twice as big as the width. So this tree is about twice as tall as it is wide. So you know the ratio. Then you can just go with it. See. So if I knew that this tree is, let's say I'm going to make this tree like that big, okay, I'm going to have to make it if this is how big it's going to be, I know approximately it's going to have to be this wide, okay, and you can do many, and then you can say the middle part is going to be like this, okay, and I'm just going to freehand this like this, and over here, all right, like this, okay, and there's one branch here, and there's a good part of the tree is over here, and kind of looms over here like this, and goes over here like that, okay, and then like this, and a few branches over here, okay, and there's a branch that goes over here and like this, okay, that's not bad. See, all of that came from what? Okay, twice as big as the original one. That you knew the relative ratio. I have to make the tree twice as tall as it is wide. So you don't have to do all the boxes and things. You can just use the simple pencil and the thumb and pencil method for relative sizes. How big is one object compared to another one? You can use relative object to assess the size of rocks, that are sitting adjacent to another like this. Okay, this rock is about half as big, a little less than that. Okay, it's like that big type of thing. Okay, that's relative sizes. Okay, that's the thumb and pencil method. We talked about that. Now, the box method is interesting. I've never used this. I don't think ever in my high school career. But this is what you do. Let's say you want to draw this, okay? And this is a picture of of some rocks in water, okay? So if somebody wants to draw this, what they do is they kind of draw the major lines over here, like this, okay? And then these are the three major objects in the picture, right? Okay, well, what you do is this object, just make it into a big rectangle. What rectangle space? Now you're just guessing how big it is, okay? Now that's how you do. So, but this is not right. This rectangle doesn't look right, right? So they say, okay, one goes over here, the other one is down over here. They make a small rectangle, they make it a small rectangle here. And then they look at it and they look back at the picture and they say, oh, this rectangle is too big. And then you go correct the rectangle, make it smaller, okay? And then this is more like a square than it is, so they fix the rectangle like that. The reason is because it's always easier to correct mistakes early in the drawing than after you have added the details. So you want to get all the proportions correct before you start adding the details, before you start adding the shading in the drawing, okay? So this rectangle doesn't look right, so you fix. So you first draw the rough rectangles or boxes, okay? And then you fix the boxes. Just go back and forward, get the boxes correct, okay? Then when you think you got the relative sizes of the boxes correct, okay? So this is the same picture as before. Now it looks like, okay, maybe I got the relative size of boxes correct. Okay, I got that over here. Then you do, okay, now then you start drawing the object in the box. So, okay, this is the object in the box. It's a rock. It kind of looks like this, okay? And it goes like, it's like this, and it goes something like that. And then it goes like this, okay? So you draw, this is like a rough draft, right? So you draw it lightly, because obviously when you drawing rough draft, you want to draw it lightly, and then you don't have to be accurate at this stage, okay? Because you're going to make 100 corrections before you're done, so to speak. Okay, so you draw this. So you draw the rough outline of the objects like this, approximately, okay? Now, what does this do for you? Look at this. You think that was kind of silly thing, but you got the relative placement of the objects correct, and the relative sizes of the object correct without doing a whole lot of measuring with your thumb and pencil, right? So when this has its usefulness, correct? Right. And then once you've done the outline, then you can say, well, I'm going to add the finer details. Then you can fine-tune the objects, okay, and into more accurate versions of what they are. Okay, so that's called the box method. So the thumb and pencil method is very useful for getting the sizes correctly or enlarging. The box method is very useful for getting the placement of objects correctly, and also making thumbnail sketches to see where are maybe moving objects, etc. This then there's two more methods of getting proportions right, measuring and enlarging objects, and that's the basic shapes method and the grid method. And I'll do that inshallah after a brief pause. Until then, as-salatu was-salamu ala rasulillah. Assalamu alaikum.